Hi, good morning, everybody. We are so excited to be here with Malini and Archana from Two Bin One Bag talking about waste segregation at home. That's something we've been sort of introducing with the Kachra project for a long time now, and we love the Two Bin One Bag model. We love what these women and amazing people are doing in Bangalore, and that's why we brought them together today to answer these 8 simple questions. And now I'll just, without wasting anybody's time, quickly go on to Malini with the first question. That's why one should segregate waste at home. Malini, over to you.
Thanks, Arpita. And I love the stuff that you guys at Kachra Project have been doing, so I just love it. So why should one segregate at home? There are different experts who will say different things, but I would like each and everyone to do a simple experiment. So you pour some curry, you pour some sambar, you pour some, anything, your meat sauce on your newspaper, and then try and separate the two. And you'll get the answer, how easy it is to separate later. If left separate in the beginning, both the curry or the sambar or the meatballs can be composted, and the newspaper has a very high recyclable value. The bottom line is, once it's mixed, it cannot be fixed. Put a diaper and some e-waste in it, and the whole pile of garbage becomes toxic or hazardous instead of just 5% of the garbage which is toxic and hazardous. So that's why you should, start segregating at home, because that's where the garbage is getting generated. Yes. Arpita, you're on mute.
Fantastic, Malini. Now I'll move on to the next guest. That is Archana Kashyap, who is going to take on the next question and talk about the journey of Two Bin One Bag a little bit. So now shifting to I think this is the most critical question that we have is why 2 bin and 1 bag? Why not 1 bin, 2 bags, or 3 bin, 1 bag? And how you came on to this model? Please explain a little.
Sure. So about 3, 4 years ago, Bangalore was going through this major garbage crisis. A whole bunch of concerned citizens all around Bangalore were wondering what to do, and the answer was segregation. But when you say segregate your waste, people come up with innumerable ways to segregate waste. So a bunch of us, we all tried to do different things in our own communities, and we found that, it's never going to work if each of us are doing our own thing. So we came together, we did a bunch of case studies, and we found that on a daily basis, you get only 3 types of waste. You get your compostable waste, you get your recyclable waste, and you get your sanitary waste. And what we found is a household of 4 can generate only about 1.2 kgs of waste, out of which about 60% is your compostable waste, which can fit very well into about an 8-liter bin. And then you have your sanitary waste, which is just 5%, can again fit into a very small bin. And then, of course, you have your recyclable waste. Try putting a pizza box into a small bin, it's not going to happen. So that's when, we decided, okay, a bag works great. And we've been to apartment complexes where they've said, no, segregation is going great. We've just told the residents, segregate, and they're doing their own thing. Let's not bother with it. So we went along with the housekeeping to see how things are going. And what we found is, people are doing so many different things. They keep all kinds of trash bags outside. They keep their different bins. Housekeeping has no idea what is what. So collection becomes a nightmare when there is no standard process. So 2 bin, 1 bag methodology is a standard methodology, color-coded methodology, where every single person is using the same type of bins and bags, color-coded bins and bags, and they keep it out in the morning. Collection is door to door. And your housekeeping also has color-coded drums. So, it becomes really simple. Our green bin to their green drum, our red bin to their red drum. So this is a very standard process. We love the, the traffic light analogy where, everybody follows the exact same color code. Can you imagine if the green light meant something different to a different set of people? You'd have accidents on the road. So this is exactly what we're trying to do even with trash, where the green bin means the same thing throughout the city, or we are hoping even throughout the country. No one person speaks the same language, but color is universal. So that's what this two bin one bag methodology is all about. It's we've done case studies. It is something that has developed over time, not something that we did overnight. And we found very high success because it is something that you give to people. You say this is exactly how you do it. There are no two ways about it, and people follow it. It becomes a habit. There is not too much preaching that we have to do, and that is what we found, that within about 15 days your segregation levels really, it comes up to almost 80 to 90% without having too much trouble.
So I'd like to add something here. Uh, One of the things which we discovered, we keep hearing citizens don't want to do it, we are the ugly Indians and all that stuff. When you give it in a fairly standard process with guidelines and all the issues thought through, taken care of, like we've done it in the two bin one bag, we find citizens do want to do the right thing. In community after community, on day one, at least 70% of the citizens are doing the right thing. You make it mandatory, another 20-25% fall in line. Yeah.
Right. See now, for example, I live in an apartment community that has about 1,000 households. So if you say, okay, you know what, we're going to have an awareness session, just about 10% will actually attend it. What are you going to do to about the 90%? So you have to put a system in place for the other 90% who has no time to, it's not because they don't want to, they just don't have the time to think about it. They don't have the time to attend awareness sessions. So what do you do for such a large community? The best way is to put a system in place. And like Malini said, once your society has bylaws saying, you know what, segregation is mandated and this is exactly how you need to do it, people will follow it. It's not hard to do. Segregation is pretty much like sorting your waste, putting it into the right color-coded bin. It's almost like a game. Kids love to do it, and we found that residents find it extremely simple to do it. There's not too much complaining happening because of this. Did we lose Arpita?
I think we did.
Okay.
That's okay. I think she'll join us back. So let's look at the next one, which is a question a lot of people have, which is how do you manage your sanitary waste or diapers? And I think there are three different ways to do it. One is the good way, which is, you segregate it, you put it in your red bin. Your housekeeping collects it in a segregated manner, and it goes still to a landfill. But it's much more hygienic for your waste workers. The second one is a better option, but it's a little more expensive, which is your community works with vendors like Meridi, Ramki, or other vendors which are designated vendors which work typically with hospitals to manage their biomedical waste. You give your waste to a vendor like that, they will take it to an incinerator, they'll incinerate that waste safely, and it doesn't need to harm poor villagers or where the landfills are. So it doesn't need to reach landfill at all. And the best way to manage your sanitary waste or diaper waste is actually the cheapest one too, which is switch to reusable options like cloth or a reusable diaper, Ugar or Ecofem reusable sanitary pads, and menstrual cups like a she cup. Today, all of these options are available in India. All these vendors have their own website. If you just Google up, you'll see them. There are two excellent Facebook groups. One is called Sustainable Menstruation India, and the second one is Cloth Diapering India. Join one of these groups, become aware, and switch. It's good for the environment and it's good for your pocket, and it's more hygienic, it's more healthier for you. So back to you, Arpita.
Thank you for that. So for the next question, we have why should one segregate e-waste, plastic waste, metal waste, and how do you handle these? Ashna,
Um,
over to you.
So things like e-waste, metal, plastic waste, they're all a resource. And everything that is manufactured, all your electronics that is manufactured, they are using raw materials, your, resources from the planet. We are constantly mining for all of these resources to make our, fabulous e-waste. I mean, electronic goods. But what is happening once it does turn into waste? That every couple years you have a new phone that's coming out. What happens to all of this? What could happen is, if it is handled well, is a lot of it can be salvaged. Your e-waste, your metal, your plastic waste, all of it can be salvaged. But if you have to give it to the right uh, person or the right company to actually salvage your e-waste. So our two-bin one bag methodology has been designed so that the e-waste, your plastic waste, and your paper, etc., can be put in the recyclable bag, and the recyclable bag has to be taken to a dry waste collection center. So it is presumed that the contents of your bag will reach a dry waste collection center where it is aggregated. So just because you're putting it into a bag doesn't mean it's, immediately it's going to go and find a destination. It goes to a secondary sorting place where it is sorted out into 30 different categories. So you have your e-waste, you have your various types of plastic, you have your paper, your metal, your glass. It is sorted into 30, 40 categories. So that is what we are presuming. So the methodology presumes that the e-waste is taken to a dry waste collection center where it is aggregated and given to the responsible vendor. But if you are giving your waste or your recyclables to your local kabadiwala, then we highly suggest that you do not give your e-waste to a local kabadiwala. Please do give it to an authorized vendor. An authorized vendor who can actually extract your e-waste into these various heavy metals. Unfortunately, if you give it to your local kabadiwala, he'll most probably hire a bunch of people to hammer onto your e-waste and extract it, which we do not want. So yes, so please do give your recyclables to a responsible vendor. And if you cannot find a responsible vendor, please contact your pollution control board, your local pollution control board. Thankfully, Karnataka, we do have e-Parisara. We have a bunch of other guys who are doing a fantastic job of collecting e-waste.
Thanks for that, Archana. I think that was a very critical point you brought forth, because what happens is you just have these kabadiwalas everywhere, and we just find that one-shot solution. Give everything to him, let him sort it out, let him do whatever he wants to do, and
Yeah.
eventually, we don't really see what happens and how this waste turns out in rivers, or turning our water into sewage. That's
Yes. Oh,
something very, very
sorry.
critical.
Another thing I completely forgot to mention is your bulbs and tube lights.
Yeah.
Please be very, very careful with those. It does have mercury. You do not want to be breaking tube lights and bulbs. Mercury is highly toxic and volatile. So again, you have to find an authorized vendor who extracts the mercury, and then, takes care of the glass part of it, the glass and the metal part of your bulbs and tube lights. So an
Just
authorized
you
vendor is
could
important.
either take the traditional bulb
Yes.
and you have savings there of the electricity and other things, or choose the LED bulbs which have come. To choose either LED bulbs or your traditional bulbs. Let go of CFL. It's just too dangerous for the waste workers.
That's again an important point. Now, that's also something I am looking forward to doing, getting a database of authorized dealers, where not just for Bangalore, because you guys are doing a tremendous job crowdsourcing this information for various cities. And I would like to emphasize, if anybody wants to get in touch with us for that particular assignment that we want to take up, crowdsourcing information of authorized vendors who deal with e-waste, very soon. So moving on with Malini now. The next question we have is that we see these huge and big plastic black colored garbage bags which have become a commonplace in.
Sure. But I'll let Archana take it. She just loves black bag.
Yeah, I love these bags. Black plastic garbage bags. I mean, people love these bags because they do a fantastic job of keeping your bin clean. But guess what? Once this bag gets out of your community, it is going nowhere. It is going right next to the open dump and getting burnt. The reason being, Unfortunately, plastic bags do not have a great recycle value. The petrol prices have dropped, so people would much rather buy virgin plastic than trying to clean your filthy garbage bag. So your garbage bags are most likely getting burnt or it is going to a landfill. Both are extremely hazardous. Once it's burnt, it's releasing phthalates, dioxins, benzene, you name it, they're all carcinogenic, toxic gases. And creating these plastic bags are, right from creation to using to disposing, it is all hazardous. Just to create a plastic garbage bag, you are using a lot of chemicals, you are using chlorine, you are using all these toxic chemicals just to keep a bin which is 30 rupees or 40 rupees clean. So what we would say is just avoid it. Almost 1 lakh citizens in Bangalore are using the 2 bin 1 bag methodology, which eliminates plastic garbage bags. What we say is if they can do it, 1 lakh citizens, we've seen them in all different shapes and sizes. If they can do it, even you can. It is not a big deal to wash a green bin with just 1 day's worth of food. I guarantee that, in any refrigerator, you have older food sitting there. So just to keep your 30 rupees bin clean, please do not pollute the environment. Please do not pollute our water bodies, because these plastic bags are even ending up in lakes and oceans. It is so not worth it just to keep a bin clean. So if you are having an issue with keeping your green bin clean, then we say buy another green bin and swap between the two. And all of us are pretty much using RO water, worried because, our borewell water is contaminated. And the reason it's contaminated, it is because of our garbage going into the water. So we are all using RO water. The RO output water, you can use it to clean your bins. So it's not like we're wasting extra water for the bins. So please avoid black plastic garbage bags. They are expensive. They are not worth it.
Like I said, I know you love the bags.
Yes, and another thing that we really do not like is when we see, cleaning happening in the name of Swachh Bharat, when people are sweeping all these leaves into these black plastic bags and then hauling it off somewhere else. We would much rather see these leaves just lie on the road and decompose and, back into the soil or whatever. There are plenty of leaf composters available. Please do not put it in a black trash bag. You are not doing anybody a favor. Transporting it from point A to point B is not the solution.
That's right. So you get a clean India and you get a dirty Bharat, right?
True. We get a clean Bangalore and a dirty Mandur, Mavalipura, Ijipura, Dodbellapura, you name it. All the villages surrounding Bangalore are filled with our black trash bags that are supposedly keeping our city clean.
Sure. So I'll answer the next one. If you look at small candy bars or chocolate wrappers, gift wrappers, your credit card slips, these are small pieces of waste. You'll see them, they're going into the waterways, they're going into the soil, they're going in these huge drains which we have in all the cities. And they're killing, in the oceans and the rivers, they're killing all kind of life. But all of them can be recycled. They have very, very low recycling value, but all of them can be recycled. If you do it, like Archana had mentioned earlier, in the 2 bin 1 bag way, which means you put it in the bag and they get a free ride with your Harpic bottles and your shampoo bottles and high value like your cardboards, pizza boxes, they get a free ride. They go to a dry waste collection center or they go to an aggregator who will take it and get it recycled. You put it in a trash and nobody is going to pick it up because they don't have enough value for that effort. So Archana, do you want to talk about the next one? How do you handle celebrations and festivals without trashing the environment?
Sure. So what we found is any community that has started segregation, immediately you'll see the reject waste has gone down by about 10% or even 5%. People are doing a fantastic job, so just about 5% needs to go to a landfill. But unfortunately, what happens is one single celebration and your reject waste again bounces back to about 30-40%. And the reason being, every time you do a celebration, people are using disposable plates, cups, spoons. You have these balloons all over the place. And what they don't realize is most of these are not recyclable. Most of these are not compostable. It will end up in a landfill. So please, please stop using these balloons. Just for a party of an hour or two, we see, 30, 40 balloons being strewn all around the place. Kids love it, yes, but that is a very, very fleeting happiness. And what we suggest is please do not use balloons. Your innocent looking styrofoam plates and paper cups are not recyclable. Styrofoam, again, polystyrene, it is a plastic, it cannot be recycled, it is toxic, it does release toxins into your food. There are fantastic alternatives out there. So what we suggest is use the compostable alternatives like areca nut plate, your lotus leaf plates. Best is stainless steel. We might think that, oh my gosh, that's a lot of washing if we use a stainless steel plate or a cup or a spoon. But guess what? Just to make a plastic spoon or a plastic plate, it takes a lot more water and petrol, and think about the packaging that it comes with, and think about the transportation. So you're using up a lot more resources by using anything disposable. So please avoid single-use disposables. Just think about how we were celebrating about 15 years ago. We didn't have all of these disposables. We did use leaf plates, areca nut plates, stainless steel. We used flowers for decorations, lights for decoration, nothing that we would use once and throw it away. That is not our culture. Unfortunately, we're stepping away from Indian culture. Indian culture was always about reusing. So let's go back to what that was. It is fantastic. Our culture was about saving and conserving and reusing. So let's go back to that. That is how our celebrations and festivals should be.
Right, that's fantastic. I think that's something that we need to go back to, and in terms of we're talking about technological innovations in terms of autoclaving and incineration, and how the need to segregate waste. I often hear comments coming from people and audience how the need to segregate is reduced just by putting up these big machines for segregating waste and the autoclaving, and following the model of other developed countries. Throw some light on that. How is that relevant when it comes to these technologies, relevant when it comes to our own country
Sure.
finding a solution?
So if we do want to emulate a country like Sweden, then we should be doing everything that Sweden does, including the 90% recycling that happens in Sweden. Unfortunately, our country is still very, very young when it comes to waste management. We are still not doing a very good job with recycling. So once we do a fantastic job with recycling and composting, then we can think about the 5%, 10% waste that does need incineration, that does need autoclaving. But we cannot afford to be dumping 5,000 tons of waste that is being generated in Bangalore into an incinerator. It is impossible to be autoclaving that much. Autoclaving is basically sanitizing your hazardous waste. Can you imagine taking 5,000 tons of waste and trying to put it into a sanitizer? It is almost impossible to do. So the first step is always to reduce. The next step is to recycle or reuse. Then you have your incineration, autoclaving, landfilling. So those are the last steps. We cannot be talking about those steps even when we haven't done the recycling part. You're going to be losing a lot of resources. And India fortunately generates a lot of organic waste. We found that 60% of our waste is organic waste. There is you, incinerating organic waste is almost criminal. You have farmers all around the city saying that they need the compost. They will come back and buy your compost if you do a good job of composting it. So we found that many apartment complexes are selling their compost once they start segregating and processing their organic waste. So to say that we need incinerators, autoclaving, and all that, I think it's way too immature at this point.
Right. So in terms of, it's just a random thing I want to put to you. In terms of imagining a country where we all start segregating and composting our waste, do you think that is practically possible in the next 10 years, or when are we ever going to reach there?
So here is the thing. So right now we found through the two bin one bag methodology, we've had about 1 lakh households segregating. And what we found in Bangalore, we have 15,000 apartment complexes that have been designated as bulk generators. Bulk generator in Bangalore means more than 50 households. So what we found is two bin one bag methodology works great where there is an RWA in place, a Residents Welfare Association, because you can put bylaws in place. So if you have 15,000 households, they are pretty much generating more than half of Bangalore's waste. And Bangalore still doesn't have as many apartment complexes as Mumbai or Pune. So if you get every single apartment complex to start managing their own waste, then this is definitely doable. So right now we're talking 1 lakh households is what, 1%, or no, more than that, whatever. But the point is, if we get to at least about 50% of the households in Bangalore to start segregating, that is still a huge relief for the municipality. So to say that, segregation is not happening is too early to say it. We've just started it. It's just been about 3-4 years since, we've put all these systems in place. So we need to give it a lot more time, and we need to push the authorities to, your municipality, we're fighting a PIL with the High Court. Through all of these, we have to change the policies. So trying to do the good thing is great, but it also has to happen through regulations. So what we highly suggest is, talk to your municipality. They need to put all these rules down as well.
The
In terms
government,
of, yeah, Malini, sure.
the Ministry of Environment and Forests, they are looking at coming out with solid waste management rules, which make it mandatory for segregation at source. So that's good news there. And I remember talking to Almitra Patel, who started literally the segregation at source in 2000. And she told me her husband had told her, at least in your lifetime, you won't see anybody else segregating. And today there are so many of us. So I feel the only people who can do a difference. When we started, we thought if we reach 10,000 households, that'll be great. But guess what? It is a good thing to do, and most people do want to do the right thing. People are bothered about the dirty and the unclean and unhygienic conditions our countries is going towards. And people do want to write things. So when they find out, they're doing it. So it's not 1 lakh household where we've gone and educated each and every one of them. People learn, they pass on the message. We came through Almitra, trained somebody else. There was a whole group of people. One of them trained us. We trained somebody else, and they in turn are training other people. So it's truly a citizen movement.
Yes, and it's becoming a snowball effect. So every apartment that is started two bin one bag almost becomes the role model for the next, and that is what we want this to be.
We also have people who are trying to adopt this in Nepal. We have people who've done it in Uti, we've done it in Chennai, Hyderabad. Somebody's trying to do it in Gurgaon, Pune. So all different places. Why people say this is something so simple to do? It's easy to do, and it gets the results, right?
True. Okay, it's been amazing. I would have to say I've been out in to the conversation. I'm sorry for that, but you guys have been amazing. So to finish off, I would like Malmi to just throw some light on composting and how do we begin to move forward towards taking that step. And I also want to mention that we would be taking composting in the future through one of our webinars. We would be talking in detail about different kinds of composting and how one can actually begin to call themselves a beginner at composting. But just because when you talk about segregation, you cannot leave behind composting. I would like Malvi to throw some light. Malvi, over to you.
Sure. So if you look at it and you live in an area where you think the government or the municipality is not working with you, how can you still manage your waste responsibly? There is a lot of waste, which is your dry waste, which has value, so it still gets recycled, at least 60 to 70% of it. But there is a large chunk which is your organic fraction, which is anywhere between 60 to 70%. If you just throw it out, it creates a nuisance, it creates a smell, but it doesn't get recycled. The best way to manage is to compost in your own house. There are so many great options which are available for home composting currently. Uh, you have two primarily method, or actually three. So there is anaerobic composting, there's aerobic composting, and of course there's a biogas. You can also have a home biogas unit. Those are three great ways to handle your organic waste inside your homes. So then you don't have to depend on municipality, you don't have to depend on anybody external outside your house to manage your organic waste. If you choose to do composting, and I've been doing it for a couple of years, the results are mind blowing. When I say that, my kids see the full cycle, the food cycle, how I harvest it from my garden, I cook it, what goes in my trash can, the green bin, goes into my composting unit. From there, it becomes compost. I put it to the plants and I get fresh produce. So the kids get to see the whole food cycle. It's the easiest way to bring nature and get your kids to learn about the nature cycle in your home, even if you live in an apartment. And it's the only way to make sure that the food that you're getting, organic food, is truly organic. Today there are every kind of scams which are out there. So if you want truly organic food, you have to grow it. And to grow it, the most critical ingredient is to have your own compost. So back to you, Arpita.
Fantastic once again. And thanks for that. So we are just about done for today. We have taken up 8 important questions from why to segregate to how to segregate, the story of Cuban, and the relevance of composting, the different models, talking about incineration, talking about autoclaving, talking about things like plastic and e-waste. And I think it has been a great introduction to anybody who wants to take away segregation. We will have this recording with us on YouTube. We will try to promote it. We want more people to see it because you don't need to go and meet these wonderful guys in Bangalore. You can be anywhere and try to take it up, whether it's Delhi, there's Patna, there's Jammu, there's Chennai, there's any goddamn place that we are. We want people to take it up. So thank you for your time. We have done a splendid job in 30 minutes, and we hope to have more engagement for you guys because you guys are true inspiration for me, for everybody I know. Thank you so much, Malini. Thank you so much, Archana, and I wish you a very wonderful Monday. And look
Thanks,
forward to
Arpita, for
working with
having
you.
us, for
Pleasure
setting
talking.
this all up.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you so much.
much. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.